Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Curry Parker. Welcome to the Understanding Human Design podcast. And I'm super excited here today to be talking with Amber Clements. And Amber's probably going to hide her head when I talk about this, but Amber Clements is a human design level 3 practitioner who was my student and who I had the pleasure of meeting in person last year at our human design conference last year. And I know, Amber, you want to share with us your wisdom about being a reflector and all the wisdom and insight you have about life and the world. The thing that blew me away the most about you are all of the stories you have about your incredibly diverse background, including the fact that you spent several years basically being an onstage Annie Oakley and riding horses in a cowboy review. So I think you guys are going to be in for such a treat because Amber is such a delightful, vibrant, joyful human being, and she just brought so much light to our conference last year. Amber has been doing human design for about 2.5 years. She lives on the Gold Coast of Australia in sunny Queensland, which sounds lovely. She just finished, and this is so important because I think our knowledge base about reflectors is just really lacking. So I'm so excited for this. She just finished writing a book about reflectors that will be ready for you by the time we go to conference. So if you love a reflector, if you're curious about the unicorns of human design, you want to learn what is a reflector, how do you make the most of the reflectors in your life, how do you support them, how do you love them, how do you encourage them, what's the reflector experience like? Amber's going to help you understand that today. So I have so many questions for you, Amber. I can't even... I had to make I don't usually make a list, but I made a long list today. I'm not going to forget any of these. So your experience or your chart as a reflector is so different than everybody else's chart. It's completely open. And I think when we talk about human design and we talk about openness, there's something kind of built into the way that we talk about it that kind of implies that openness is sort of weak and fragile and so very sensitive, and that the reflector gets bombarded by all of this stuff in life and has to really like gather themselves and be sort of very careful about how they be in the world. And I will tell you, I have a reflector stepdaughter, and I haven't met very many reflectors in person. I think you're the third one I've actually met in person. I'm always blown away because I find that being in the presence of a reflector is huge. That reflectors are not shy and retiring. They are giant, amplified life force. So I want to know from you, what insights can you share with us about the openness of the reflector and how does that feel? Can you explain that to us?
Oh, absolutely. Look, it's a really good question about, we're so open, aren't we? Completely conditioned and in a shell, sort of hidden away, kind of rocking backward and forward from all of the conditioning that we can possibly pick up on. But what's wonderful about being a reflector is that we have this sort of Teflon aura, if you like, or the ability to sample through all of our openness. But when we follow our strategy and we really sort of, don't allow the conditioning to penetrate us, we can actually let it sort of fall through us like a sieve or a screen, if you like, and then it sort of let it go. So we sample the energy of those open centers, but we don't necessarily sort of take them on board and become them or let them become us if we really live true and sort of step into our design. One of the wonderful things about being a reflector from my experience is that I feel like often I go through an experience, I sample something, I feel it, but at the same time, I'm almost a witness to it. I'm almost outside of myself, kind of looking in and noticing what's actually happened or what I've felt and what I've sensed at the same time. And so for me, with the openness, we've got the wonderful ability to become really wise because we can actually take in and really understand things, but not let them pull us down in the way that it might for other open or other types who have openness in some of their centers.
So when I When I give readings to people and I introduce them to strategy, so many people, especially the generators and the projectors and the manifesting generators, they really resist the idea of strategy in the beginning. They say, oh, I don't have to wait. You must have the chart wrong. I'm definitely a manifester, right? And in the few readings that I've done for reflectors, when I tell them the strategy, I find that reflectors really crave the strategy, really crave the 28-day cycle, but they don't really feel like it's possible to live the 28-day cycle in the current world. Do you relate to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the what I call the era of now, when we need answers now and we need to make decisions now, it's really tough. I find that for the big decisions, for the ones that, am I going to take on this new job? Should I study something new? Should I move overseas and live somewhere else? Those really big important things in life. I think we really have to do what we can to give ourselves the opportunity to actually allow ourselves to have that period of time. And so whatever that might mean, it's really important that we allow ourselves that. And we say to people, if we can, I'll get back to you on that. Or can I tentatively say yes to that, but give myself the month to really see if it really feels right for me. When we don't have that opportunity, and I've had plenty of situations. I remember having a massively wonderful opportunity when I was flown to Mexico for a job, and I had to make a decision in a week, and it was a job that would take me around the world for the next year. And I love travel, so I was very passionate about the role, but I wasn't sure if it fit right because we don't have an inner authority, so we don't have that lovely kind of gut instinct that says yes or no or aha, and we don't have other ways of really understanding in ourselves, feeling in ourselves if something's right for us in that moment. I really needed to give myself as much time as possible. So I had a week. And in that week, I had to find my own ways to really help me feel through the decision. So it's useful. I have a couple of great people in my life who I like to talk to, or a little bit like a sounding board, who I respect and listen to, and they hear me and they allow me just to speak my truth. And as I'm speaking through some of those issues and decisions, sometimes things start to get a little bit more certain for me. Other processes I do, because I'm a 1-3 profile and I like to investigate, I will often study and research something, and I might research something in a lot of detail, and it says that from my research I need to go with option A, but then instinctively somewhere within me in that process is, no, well, I've got to go with B. So it's sort of, we have our own process based on a number of elements that are within our chart. Our profile helps, and certainly some of the gates. Yeah. But we need to give ourselves the opportunity to sort of process that. We can't just say, yes, that feels right for me in the moment. And when we do, we risk making a decision that isn't right for us. So yeah, it is difficult. It is tricky. There are some techniques and tricks that we can use, but essentially, if we could give ourselves that period of time for those big decisions, it really does help really find and feel out what's right for us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I found that with my stepdaughter, who's now 30, but when she was younger, it was just sort of part of our family mythology. We always knew that making transitions and change was never really her strong suit, that she really needed time to adjust to big changes. And that even no matter what change, even now, no matter what change sort of comes down the chute for her, and she has to change pretty quickly because she's an actor, so she can't tell people when she gets a call back, hey, I'll call you in a month and see how I feel, because her whole reputation, as you know, her whole reputation is on the line. A couple of her friends, literally since like kindergarten and first grade, like she's been with these friends for her entire life, and that her consistency comes more from, I think, her relationships than so much her environment. Do you find that that's true for you as well?
Absolutely. I think I was very lucky that I had a wonderful manifesting mother who was very good at letting me talk, and she listened, and we had a really great relationship. And to this day, anything that comes up, I feel the urge to call. So she's one of my very good sounding boards. I always like to call her up, listen to her. Don't necessarily take in what her advice, if she might suggest that I do something. It's not necessarily about that. It's really about having her really have a safe space for me to really talk to her and communicate and sound out some of my ideas. And I have a couple of other friends as well that is useful in that way. But I think one of the interesting things is in all of my experiences and all of my moving around, I didn't always have great relationships with partner. And I've only recently in the last year been married and finally met somebody that is what I would call my rock, who's really my consistent place. It's very different than me, but he really allows me to be the full essence of what I feel I want to be and can be as a reflector. And having that base for the first time really properly, I believe is what has allowed me to grow and to step into my role as a reflector even more. When we don't have that consistency in relationships, we don't have some people or at least one person that we can turn to and we can talk to, it does really, we've got so many other things that are inconsistent. We've got nothing, we haven't got that sort of stable platform to stand on or to work from. So I absolutely agree with you there on that one.
So if you were going to go back in time and knowing what you know now about yourself as a reflector, and you were, say, going to talk to your 16-year-old reflector self, what would you tell her?
Gosh, that's a very good one. I was in the midst of my experiencing life at that point. So I was trying and sampling a lot. And I was also acting, and I was, I remember saying to my mother, I want to be an actress because I want to be everything. And that way I can really try out all the different roles. And that was really interesting at the time. I think what I would have said to myself or would have given myself some advice is to maybe take a little bit more time with the relationships in my life that were stable, because with all of the changing and the moving around, I sort of I didn't understand the importance of having those strong, solid relationships. So I was bouncing around a little bit too much. And there were some great people in my life that I probably hurt or I kind of just let slip away because I was so busy trying and sampling and trying to work myself out and understand. And I think if I had those grounded in place a little earlier on, I might have been able to really find myself and my direction earlier, and not feel so chaotic and have perhaps so many traumatic experiences, if you like, that I was bouncing between trying to understand myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. So as we sort of come to the end of this conversation, what is one thing that you wish people really got about you as a reflector, or about reflectors in general?
Wow, gosh, just one. Okay.
You can add, I know you're sampling, so just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess when we're with other people, we sample them and we often reflect them back. So we become their mirror. Mm-hmm. So if somebody is feeling, wonderful and joyful and happy, we typically will pick, that up and we'll feel it and we'll reflect that back. When somebody is in maybe an unhealthy frame of mind themselves, we can also pick that up and reflect that back. And so sometimes in my life, certainly, and the reflectors that I've met and had the opportunity to experience is that when we have relationships with other people, or even just moments, it might be, colleagues or what have you, that are seeing within us something they don't like, or really having really bad reactions to us, or find negativity, often that is a reflection of how their own state of mind and their own feelings at that moment in time. And I wish that sometimes that people would be able to understand that and actually see that and not push us away because they think that the problems and the issue are with us rather than with them themselves. So if they could perhaps see the wisdom in the fact that we are a reflection and really understand that, not to sort of be pointing fingers and say, oh, it's not us, it's you, but it just gives them the opportunity to be able to see their own reflection sometimes and become a little bit more awakened to what that is, what that feels like. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And I think, I think if everybody could understand that piece in their relationship with the reflectors, I think it also allows them to really be present to the gifts that the reflector brings, for sure. That's beautiful. Thank you. So if people want to connect with you, your website is changeyourway.com.au, and you are doing human design readings. I'm going to say that again just because it's a little bit different than just a regular old .com. It's changeyourway.com.au, as in the first two letters of Australia, where you are in Central. And you are available for readings and consultations. And hopefully you can, people can find access to your book and other information and programs that you have to offer. And you will be speaking at our conference, holding an open Q&A for reflectors. And we are so excited to have you. I can't wait to share you with everyone. And thank you so much for taking a time in your morning, it's early morning there, to share this information with us and to you gave me a lot of deep insights to think about, and I appreciate it. I often want to just sit with you for like a whole day and say, okay, tell me everything. I want to know everything about the reflector because it's just so mysterious to me. So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you at our conference in September.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. Always a pleasure.